Hey, 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 it is a Truth Bomb Tuesday, and I am so grateful that you are here joining me. 'Cause the truth is never comfortable. And I want to speak to a couple of things that I've kind of been asking for clarity on. And as we all try and figure this psychops out together in this pandemic of, where are we going from here as we're programmed and induced to keep this wateeko of fear going in the second wave of some deadly virus that is going to kill you. And those of you who know me know that I am very conflict averse as an HSP, as an empath, and whether this surprises you or not, an introvert. Truth telling for me is something that I've always been judged as wrong. That I've been made wrong for, that I've been told I lack tact, and that I'm not a very nice person. And I've done my fair share over the years from childhood of people pleasing and caretaking and giving up my truth in order to keep myself safe, because back then my attachment pattern was to not be abandoned, to be liked, and to do whatever it took to not make waves and not have people not like me. And that didn't work. It's taken me decades to actually finally stand in my truth and rise up, even though I say it all the time. It still has some triggering effect on me when I say, that I'm in the service of people that are ready to speak their truth, to see their blind spots, and to do the work, to dance with the shadows, to be uncomfortable, and to do whatever it takes to claim their birthright, to claim their sovereignty, and to shine their light in the world, regardless of the trauma that they've been through. And this is why I will not stop talking about the value of having a healthy nervous system, where you learn to listen to your body, that has eons and eons and lifetimes of ancient wisdom that will always keep you on the path if you just would listen. And it's not the first time that I've probably got into more trouble than I would like. But I really feel that I'm being called to a higher level of service in this experience, that I'm choosing to be a spiritual warrior, a truth teller, a shadow dancer, an architect of change, over being in righteous anger or anti-poaching, anti-establishment, anti-whatever, because I would rather be free than right and having to defend my point of view. And my private clients know that this is a really valuable lesson. It's not easy, but it is possible when you start to look at your wound structure or your pattern of attachment that kept you safe, kept you alive, when perhaps you couldn't fight back and you couldn't flee and you couldn't run away. And the only other way was to dissociate or fragment parts and pieces of yourself that didn't feel safe. So, we're really adulting up right now under this full moon, as we continue to purge, as we continue to really acknowledge the lies and the lines and the limitations that have kept us stuck, muting our voice. And if you share my values and principles, then this is a conversation for you. And I would love your insights, your comments, whether you're a conspiracy theorist like I have been since I was 18. I think the first time that I saw David Icke do a public lecture in the University of Cape Town in beautiful South Africa. It doesn't matter whether you see yourself as a psychic technician, what labels. Remember, you are not your labels. You're not your diagnosis. You're not your prognosis. You are you. And there's only one of you out there. So Trust what you feel in your bones. Trust that you feel in the ancient wisdom that is stored in your DNA, in your RNA, in your LNA, actually in the viruses um, that have inhabited your body and your bodies before this one. That there is an incredible amount of dark medicine on center stage right now. Even if you look at mainstream news, just to be curious and to see it as just an interesting point of view, as not the truth, and to follow what is true for you, then you know what I'm talking about here. That there's going to be a lot more pushback, and having the tools and learning how to neuromodulate, to come down, to get your parasympathetic hypervigilant self that feels like it's, being chased by the saber-toothed tiger, that you've got this, that you create your own safety by being safely embodied. So the first thing is coming back into your body, to knowing, to trusting, to tuning into that very quiet voice of intuition that's always been there and that you have overridden because that was the way that you kept yourself safe. And, we all did this. The programming is real. And, when you can just sort of say it out loud, that there is a sense of down regulating, a very hyper vigilant, frightened part of our psyche. I spoke about this yesterday. All you active, sacred activists, you beautiful medicine women that have been around the block, been around a couple of lifetimes, and recognize each other, that we're finding each other, we're figuring this out together, we're not alone. And when we can just see that it is dark medicine at play here, that's been designed immaculately to lock us down, literally, for the last 4 months, and look at what's really going on here, then we can start the training days. And that's what I'm really excited about, because we have the Galactic Confederations of Light, we have other light beings, we have star seeds, we have our ancestral helping spirits, we have the sentient beings, right? The non-human species on this planet that are all gathering around waiting for us to ask generative questions. We don't get unless we ask. So how do we get enlightenment? As we sort of stand in these training days of figuring out, how do we live well? This is something that I started, my own rite of passage many, many decades ago, but certainly I increased the following and the urgency of really exploring what that would feel like and look like, physically for me, in my energetic form, but also in the frequency of being who I am right now, as a mother, um, as a daughter, as a sister, as a mentor, for others. When I went to Hawaii, just on a total leap of faith, I heard the call of the whales, and I never knew how I was ever going to get there. I had my Vedic astrology done by an incredible guy in Canada, and he said, your body will thrive in Hawaii and all around the sort of west coast of Canada and America. And I remember saying at the time, how the hell am I ever going to get to Hawaii? It's literally, as South Africa is here, Hawaii is here. There's a 12-hour difference in that. And when the opportunity came through for me to actually go there and travel and be with a sisterhood of love warriors that are dear to my heart, I answered the invitation and I went. And I did feel a sense of place. I was no longer in exile there. But, when you kind of go into this prefrontal cortex of, how do I make this into a reality for the now, because there is no permanence. It wasn't the time for me to stay there legally. I couldn't stay there, but I put certain things into process. So, I now I find myself in exile again, and yet there's a sense of place in the sacredness of woman rising rooted, as Sharon Blackie calls it, in England. You know, I have ancestral DNA running through my bones from the Irish and the Russian and the French descendants of my family, my blood family of origin. And it feels good to be standing here with you in my truth for now. And saying no is a full sentence when perhaps your truth doesn't align with my truth, or my truth doesn't align with your truth. And really looking very compassionately at the space of knowing that people that are lashing out. I've had some of my Facebook Live, some of my YouTube videos taken down over the last couple of weeks. And I know it's been happening to a lot of truth tellers that I know as well. That there is a lot of divisiveness going on, even if you look at the sort of race to find a vaccine against COVID. Just like I've always said no to the annual flu vaccines, even though some of my family do it. I've chosen not to. I got a lot of flack when I was when my child was born because I was choosing not to vaccinate her. And she's one of the healthiest children that I've known. She's never contracted any of the dreaded 3 what is it, mumps, measles, rubella, whatever that was. She never had any of the vaccines, and I had a great functional integrative doctor that was able to support me so that she could go to a mainstream school where she couldn't get in if she hadn't been vaccinated. So my question really to you today is, will you choose to be with your truth right now? Be that beautiful butterfly effect, rather than staying stuck in that wateeko, that virus of the mind that I talk about all the time, where so many of the collective are still buying into this great psychological operation that's being executed with incredible dexterity and deftness on the planet right now. You know, just the size and the magnitude of activating this huge global biological engineering, this experiment, this pandemic of all time. One has to kind of really look at that from a place of wow, you know, how easy was that to take this global with an unseen enemy. This is the Third World War, whether we like it or not. So I hope you join me, you know, before this gets muted, and bring your voice to the conversation to really rise above this dystopian timeline that is just a paradigm, right? It's not the truth, but it's certainly running around the world. There is no division or separation. This is affecting us as a species worldwide, beyond gender or race or culture. We're all feeling this, and we're all trying to figure it out together. But I do believe that it's going to have to get worse, a lot worse, before we can start to really be able to co-regulate even deeper, and start to affect greater change that makes us feel safe collectively, and where we start to feel like we can catch our breath and actually start to feel better, you know. And I'm hesitating because even in that, I always say, be your own medicine, because that's the gift that I want to be in the world, is to inspire and educate you and give you the toolbox, a really robust, functional toolbox where you can pivot and move with flexibility, with dexterity, to this ever-changing tide of not hooking in to the blatant confusion, right, in the social experiment, which is to keep you hooked back into fear. So give me your comments and insights. You know, I want to know how you're feeling about contact tracing, of being tested, where it could implicate and affect the livelihoods of your family members. And would you choose to be vaccinated if it meant that you got to be employed, if you're not an entrepreneur, if it meant that you couldn't put food on the table for your family, would you give in and be vaccinated with something that you have no idea what is in that vaccine? It's always been something that scared me. I love acupuncture. I love needles, and moxibustion. It's part of my practice with people. But I've always been terrified, even as a child, of having something put into me that I don't know what it is. So, I also remember, and I was telling someone this the other day, that apparently when my younger sister Louise was born, I was 3 at the time, and in great excitement, my sisters and my father went to visit my mom and meet this new baby in the hospital. And apparently, I don't remember it, but apparently some nurse or doctor came toward me with a mask on, a surgical mask, and wanted to give me one so that I could play doctor at home. And apparently I had nightmares and after that, but also ran in terror, wailing and screaming like a banshee in the maternity ward of the Mater Dei Hospital in Bulawayo, because there was something about a mask that terrorized my knowing in my little child body. So I've certainly felt, and I'd love to know that if you felt the same, that seeing people where you could normally read their facial expression and see the twinkle in their eye because they were really having a genuine smile, not being able to read lips. I recognize having lost some of the hearing in my one ear from a blown eardrum many years ago, that I lip read a lot more than I listen, that I've heightened that sort of spidey sense of feeling people when they speak, and that there's something very triggering and unnerving about not being able to read a person energetically, to feel their frequency because of the masks, and also take some flack because I've refused to wear a mask when I have occasionally stepped into one of the local supermarkets here. But I want to know how you're feeling. If you were forced, and I've considered this myself, if I was forced to have a vaccine against this unknown threat of the coronavirus in order to be able to work in this country, what would I choose? And I don't have the answer to that yet. I would like to say no. I would say no as a full sentence, but right now, I don't know until our backs are really pushed against the wall. I don't know what we would choose in any given moment. And I've always said that, to put yourself in the body of a rapist or a murderer or someone that does horrendous things or abuses animals or does anything that doesn't feel like it fits into my integrity or my principles or my moral values and standards. It's very difficult to say how your survival response would kick in if you did find yourself in a situation where you perhaps needed to kill or be killed. So to have ownership of that killing energy is something that I'm still learning how to be with. But I don't know how I would feel if I was forced to have a vaccine in order to put food on my table or to move freely from one country to another, if that meant that I never saw my mother or my sisters again, or my daughter who is in South Africa while I'm in exile in the UK. And I don't know how I would feel about having an implant of a chip that I'm tracked wherever I go, right? The contact tracing. I don't know how I feel about 5G technology or a cashless society, I certainly know that that brings up a lot of fear in me to think of not having cash in my wallet, and maybe going to an ATM and being told that I can't access funds that are mine because perhaps I have done something that's been against the mainstream. So I don't know about you, but it's an interesting time, isn't it? Where we sort of ponder and try and figure this out together where never before in human history, certainly in this lifetime, I've never ever imagined that we would be quarantined, and socially isolated and separated from one of our most human needs of connection and safety and belonging and touch, physical touch, that's been part of this massive psychological experiment, where everyone in the world is being told that they need to be masked. I never imagined, didn't see this one coming. I don't know about you. So, my question is, what is going on here? Are we wearing masks to protect ourselves, to protect others? What it doesn't matter what kind of covering we're using when we get it, but what upsets me more, right? And then I have to look at where have I set myself up, but because you can't be disappointed if something is predictable, and there are so many evidentiary contrivances right now and places where I've had conversations of, yes, even though the world got to have a reset and nature got a few momentary pauses to regenerate, have we not caused even more damage? Have we not caused even more toxic pollutants with the amount of PPE and disposable face masks and gloves and more plastic that's going to end up in the oceans because of this? If I just think about the billions of people on this planet, if you're wearing your throwaway mask or you're going through disposable gloves every day, how's that adding up in your recycling, in your carbon footprint, in the damage that we're doing to our ecosystem, which is already fragile and already on the brink of mass extinction of so many species in our oceans, and in this beautiful world where we're supposed to be the stewards, the guardians of the planet, not the destroyers? What happens when you're wearing a mask, or touching biohazard, and there isn't a safe receptacle to dispose of it? There just seems to be incongruencies for me in so much of what I have heard, what little I have heard, because I choose not to listen to mainstream media than to look at it as, what is the programming? What is the next psychological operation that's being executed in this big pandemic? But it's really confusing, isn't it? There's so much inconsistency and obfuscation, and part of it I see is a lot of cognitive dissonance that's kind of resolved through excuse me, capitulation of a mob mentality. And again, I come back to David Icke because he was my hero in my early 20s, and where I started to really start to question the fiduciary systems and what he calls this robot rebellion, where people end up policing each other, and I can see it playing out now. The cashless society, people policing other people for fear, of all these sort of illusions of safety, and yet there's so much that I find makes me incredibly angry, that makes me want to push back and defend my point of view, because they're all infringements on our personal freedom to choose. So, if we're going to enact sort of large scale medical interventions for the greater good, I, for one, like so many of my peers, so many of my love warrior friends, my sacred activism friends, I want to see some quality science for sure, to support this sort of novel approach of what wellness or holism or health looks like before I go offering up my body as some kind of incubator for a vaccine that I have no idea what's in. So yeah, again, it reminds me of a movie, a series that I started watching. I don't know when it came out, maybe a year ago. The Handmaid's Tale. Maybe you've seen it, but I kind of was sickly engaged in in watching episode to episode because it felt like there was familiarity in it, and there was also this unease, this dis-ease. Of what's going on in society. And this was way before COVID, but a very, really dystopian view of zero freedom, where these intelligent, incredibly powerful women had been taken against their will and beaten into submission and forced to wear masks and were raped repeatedly, to keep Gilead, or, the chosen ones of Gilead, in their line of children because their wives couldn't have children. And there was something very uneasy, but morbidly fascinating about it. And I kind of feel like we're living this out. It's not one thing, but it's so much of this dark medicine that's showing up right now. And then I wonder, we did choose to be here at this time because somehow we have to play our part in rising up against this and staying in our truth. And I think that I'm as guilty as the next, if we want to go into that. And of course, shame is part of our humanity as well, part of the programming. And I have shame often too, in being human. I used to be very, very distressed as a child to be a person, when I saw so much suffering and going on in the world through the eyes of the stories I've often shared about just my father killing beautiful buck, beautiful deer, that I felt so connected with, and seeing the life force going out of them for his sheer pleasure of killing an animal. I never understood that. But I think what's happening now is happening because we're letting it happen. And we let it happen, and choose your method, whether that's staying quiet, whether that is giving up your right to speak your truth, giving up your right to say no. It's happening because we, on some level, feel like the naughty children, that we're going to get punished and persecuted or killed or burnt at the stake again. And also because as children, we know that boundaries that are created that are flexible create safety for us. So obviously that's why it works, to have rules, that we feel safer when there are expectations on us. And I think it's all a part of the trauma that we're maybe not ready to heal right yet. We have to heal in order to feel, and we have to call back the fragmented parts and pieces of us that we have disowned, denied, rejected before someone else could do that to us, right? Abandoned us, we abandoned ourselves. So we are very ripe, as a body of humans, to be used as a social experiment, for this sort of recruitment to a belief system that kind of foreshadows, doesn't it, the role of technology in transcending humanity. And we have to remember our humaneness, because we have lost our hearts and we have been taken hostage. We have had our civil liberties and our freedoms stripped by agendas of the powers that be, right? Whether you call that the Illuminati or governments, governments were created to control the masses. and they've worked for centuries, and these old systems are breaking down right now. So we have a lot of work to do. We really do, but I just am so grateful that you joined me for these musings, where as a verbal processor, it helps me to be able to speak this out loud and know that I'm not allowed, that I have some feedback, some connection to you, and your truth. But these are strange times. I don't like the dehumanization that reminds me of The Handmaid's Tale. That reminds me of, the old entities and demonic energies, or dark medicine, where people's lips were stitched up in ritual to mute the voices, the witch burnings, and I think my heart kind of skips a beat every time I see a mask. That's limiting my ability to read you, to feel your frequency, that I can't understand and I can't hear what you're saying because I can't see your lips move. And on top of that, the feeling when I had to use one on the train a couple of months ago, I couldn't keep it on. And then to look at the sort of the looks of disapproval from people on the train, and the fear, that I could possibly be a biohazard, a transmuter of this deadly disease, brings up a lot of old unhealed trauma. And also breathing in that, the stale air. And there's no science that proves that masks actually help. But I think that for me, the masks and what the Handmaid's Tale reminded me, and I kind of wondered, wow, is that, Hollywood, which is part of this whole propaganda machine, part of the psychological ops? So was that just sort of priming us, like a lot of these other movies like Contagion and viruses and, the end of days and deadly viruses? Has that not just subconsciously been priming us for this time to be very, very afraid? Yeah. Gosh, that perpetuation of fear and vigilance is an interesting one, where everything is telling us that we have to be very, very afraid, even if we're trying to make life as normal can be, but that there is submission in this, submitting to the powers that be in obedience, which is now demonstrated so visibly, and that the people are policing the people. Even on the way to a supermarket, you cough and people are horrified. So, it really saddens me to see how this is cultural genocide. Closing gyms, not allowing people like my sister, incredible esthetician, that they can't work, they can't do their livelihood. And I know, for one, I'm certainly been starved of touch, to actually go and get a good chiropractic adjustment or have some acupuncture. My body is starving for the kind of touch. And what better way to separate and isolate and keep us in submission and oppress the masses by keeping us separate. I've talked about the this great separation sickness for decades now, but here we are living it. Where we're not allowed to gather, where we're not allowed to touch each other, where we can't dance, where we can't connect, where we can't breathe, where we can't, sing together. My mum was saying that one of the things she misses is the faith that she and the connection that she finds in going to church, and how she's choosing not to go back to church because the thing that lights her heart up is the singing of the beautiful hymns and the coming together of people, and and hugging each other and touching and being in communion. So here we are, cultural genocide. And today I heard that now in certain parts of the country, you're not allowed to take your dog out for a walk. They closed historical parks and our ability to commune in nature and to exercise. We need to feel safe in our bodies. And how do we transmute if we're disconnected? It's just part of this grand plan to keep us in this place of feeling separate, of feeling alone. So, I don't know where to from here, but all I do know is that when you hear that it's for your own safety and for the greater good, just remember that the government, designed to control you, it doesn't actually care about your safety. In fact, the definition of the greater good. It is not for your greatest good. So I remember when, again, coming back to David Icke and his problem reaction solution, when he was talking about the powers that be, the Illuminati theory, the conspiracy theory, playing out in South Africa when Jacob Zuma, one of the most corrupt, vile creatures ever to come into power in South Africa, and there's been a lot of them since Mandela's days, when he was in the thick of stealing and lining his own wallet, lining his own back pocket with taxpayers' money, with the Guptas. We as South Africans were feeling the effects of devaluing currency that was worth pretty much like Zimbabwe, not worth the money that it was printed on. And we were suffering, load shedding, which basically meant they turned the power off whenever they felt like it, left you literally sitting in the dark, unable to do business, which for entrepreneurs like me who have clients in 6 or 7 different countries and different timelines around the world, I need my electricity in order to connect with my clients. But I just remember that, creating the problem reaction solution thing was also diverting people's attention, and how beautifully they timed it. That Oscar Pistorius, the athlete that murdered his girlfriend, they timed it divinely, that everybody's attention was fixated on this court case of Oscar Pistorius, while the Guptas left the country taking their billions with them, and Zuma and his cronies continued to just kind of screw up the economy and screw the very people that had voted them into power. So, I think it's important also to just trust your truth. And especially when all those sort of mainstream channels that are owned by who, and owned by the Gateses, and owned by the Rothschilds and all the other people involved in this great pandemic, that when you to look over here, you better believe it, because they want you to look over there. And because the headline making event is likely set the condition for the problem reaction solution, just to increase control and capture. It's part of the wateeko. It's part of the programming and the implants of the fear virus into your mind. And I think that's why it's really, really important, if you get nothing else out of my rambling today, to just ask, what is the ultimate plan that's playing out here, and how does granting or restricting a particular freedom serve that plan? Because it's all very selective, isn't it? In the psychological operation, if you see this as one big grand experiment, this is not the first. And I know George Clooney played in one of those movies. I can't remember what it was, but it was around this whole experiment of governments that for decades and decades have been experimenting on people way back, actually, World War II. I was horrified to know that apparently South Africa was very involved with Hitler and the Nazis in experimenting on people, in gene selection and germ warfare right back then. But, just Google some of them. Project Mockingbird, another one was Operation Paperclip. There's been the MK Ultra. And very few people know about this because they were secret programs, right? That included brainwashing techniques to deceive and program and manipulate behavior. And I don't like that sort of feeling or sense that I'm part of this experiment, that we all are. And I think innately we know what's playing out here on a deeper, very subconscious, very ancient, very primal level. It doesn't feel good because it is dark magic, right? It's dark medicine. And we are the ones that we've been waiting for now, that we have to see what is unconscious. We have to perhaps look at people that are policing us, that are having very triggered, very upsetting projections of spewing vitriol or pointing fingers or telling us that we're not, we're being irresponsible when we don't wear masks, for example. To just treat them with a lot of compassion, to just send love to the really, really frightened parts of them that are in such terror that they're acting out in that way. Because sometimes educating, sometimes trying to put across a point of view, a different perspective, it doesn't go down very well. And, I'm more aligned to speaking to my tribe that really get this, that are part of this, that understand it, that feel it, and are ready to do whatever it takes, than to try and convert those that are not ready to be converted, that are still stuck in the terror. And, I recognize that the practice of embodiment is deeply personal. I realize the practice of finding one's own safety within the body is mastery. We're in this for the long run. There's no quick fix here. But just remember, that you get the power to choose. And you can either accept the poisoned apple that the powers that be are seeking to tempt you with, or you can reclaim your power or take back your power maybe for the first time in your life and say no in a full sentence. Because these systems that are playing out, they aren't designed to know anything about health. They're only designed to know profit and control. And you don't need laws and rules and mandates to ensure your well-being. Trust me on that one. So trust the power of choice is yours and yours alone. Trust that you have the power to heal and experience vital life energy, your chi, your prana, through dance, through movement, through connection, however you find it, however you co-create it. Find your own way, find your own truth. You don't have to be afraid of your body. And you certainly don't need the pseudo paternal or maternal figures to take care of you. The sheep in the wolf in sheep's clothing. Be your own little Red Riding Hood and your own Sleeping Beauty. And just know, big pharma. I've said it before, there's a time and a place for antibiotics. There's a time and a place for medicine, for intervention, whether that is setting a bone or an operation in a life-threatening situation. But, take control of your gut microbiome through food as medicine, through lifestyle changes, through trusting your body's incredible innate power to strengthen your immune system, right? That we have more viruses and more parasites in our body than we do our own DNA expression. Gosh, and retrovirals are supposed to be deadly to us, but they're part of who we are in our nature, in our essence. And we have to look beyond the good and the bad, the good guys or the bad guys. Let your children eat dirt. Get your fingers and get your feet in the dirt. Go back to from farm to table. Start growing your own vegetables. Cook up a batch of beautiful, nurturing, plant-based medicine. Brew your own kefir, your own teas, your own infusions from nature. Look to nature. Get the sauerkraut going. Make your gut microbiome happy and healthy. Take copious amounts of good chelated vitamin C. Feed your body the supplements and the nutrients that it needs. And trust your body. Your body is your greatest consciousness facilitator. And oftentimes, yes, we get a cold, we get the flu in the wintertime. We get the stomach bug, we get diarrhea, because our body needs to update the microbial data, right? It needs to look at where the viruses and the bacteria and the microbes are mutating so that it can update the database to recognize what is a real threat and what is not in the body, and know how to launch an attack. And yes, we have symptoms when these sort of viral particles get activated in the system. It's what allows our body to update its database on all the microbes that it's come across, and build a healthy immune system. It helps us to detox, which is why, I used to get incensed when people say they're taking something to stop their body's natural response to detoxify through a bout of diarrhea or vomiting or heat in the body. Sometimes the body needs to really heat up in order to burn off, to kill the virus. Sometimes it needs to get really cold. But we've forgotten how to trust our bodies from all the programming and the indoctrination to give your power away to those people that, don't know you. You know your body better than anybody else. So trust your body. Trust what you know. Know that there's a better way, that you're not alone, and that it's really time to trust that you've got this, we've got this, and we're figuring it out together. So just know, going back to August, the astrological alignment of the planets, that we have Chiron around the planet of the wounded healer for the next 7 years. I really believe that there's going to be a lot of pushback over the next 7 years, and we're seeing, as I said, this power control freedom dynamic playing out. So just keep asking yourself, where to from here? Follow your heart, follow your soul, follow your body, as you continue to sort of purge your experiences, purge the things that are no longer working for you, letting go of old trauma lines and patterns that may be playing out in dream state and memories and around lifetimes and relationships, and just know that everything is speeding up. And you may be finding that you're making decisions without thought, right? Because you're really trusting your body, you're trusting your unconscious psyche as a technician of light, that you're letting go without hesitation, things that haven't been working for you for a very long time. So just pay attention, to where you're finding yourself land, to what's triggering you, to your dreams, to your experiences. Keep grounding into your truth. And just know also when to push pause in the world, when you need a break, when you need to step out, when you need time to rest, when you need to say no as a full sentence. And You might also want to know, before we meet on 8/8 on Saturday, for those of you that are joining me, I'll be doing a live transmission, whether that's a channeling, whether that's sound healing, whether that's breath work, whether that is a download from the lions themselves. I will be at Stonehenge broadcasting, God willing, Lionsgate willing, that I have internet connection there to broadcast live on my Facebook group for the Lionsgate portal. I will be going live around 2:30, 2:45, depending on when I get situated. So until then, just know things are going to get much louder over the next 6 months or more. But also know that the galactic confederations of light are around us. They are coming in stronger than more before. We've seen beautiful crop circles. We're seeing more visible proof that there are other ETs, other galactic confederations showing themselves to us. The dragon energy is coming up. Our ancestral helping spirits are coming up right now to really support us to energetically pull out these really, really deep toxic roots of this dark medicine at a cosmic level. And we are going to continue to cleanse and clear and purify what is no longer acceptable to us on this planet to create a sustainable planet, right? One that we can call home and be the guardians and the stewards of. So, we're doing the preparation work. We've been preparing for this for probably our whole lives, and you know who I'm talking to. But I really do believe this is the dog star lights up and aligns with the Great Pyramid, the Sphinx, the Lion's Gates in Timbavati. We're going to be connecting these energetic grids back to Metatron's cube. We're going to be connecting to the Merkaba, and we're going to be activating and clearing all of our sort of 8 Merkaba points, our energetic energy bodies, and our energy centers on the 8/8. And we have already started to do that. So just know that it is happening already, and that the high galactic councils are with you, supporting you right now, as are your energetic community that are in this tribe. So I hope you join me. 8/8, mark it in your diary. Just block out about an hour's time. Bring your voice, bring your gifts, bring your music, bring your dance, bring your breath as we breathe fully into a new earth that we are creating together. And I will meet you there. All right. Lots of love, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Bye.